I thought before maybe it was the body's inability to absorb, and I've heard you speak about this, so it's the body's ability to access it. Do you think it's the energy is just going to healing crises, or what do you think it is?
Well, I think it's important to say I don't know exactly what's going on. I can only guess.
Sure.
I mean, and that's the beautiful part. When we use medicine, a doctor tries to understand what's happening and then tries to give you a treatment, which usually means drugs or surgery, in order to counteract the symptoms, whatever it is you're experiencing. With alternative medicine, it's not really very different. It might be an herb, it might be a homeopathic remedy, but they're still directly dealing with the symptoms of the problem. If you have these symptoms, you take this herb, you take this homeopathic remedy. We want to understand that the symptoms are always evidence that the body is cleansing or healing. We don't want to suppress the symptoms. That's counterproductive. I mean, it makes us feel better. And if you're experiencing a headache or a stomach ache, you probably want to eliminate that as quickly as possible.
Hmm.
But you want to be clear that if you do that, you are virtually ensuring that your body cannot heal completely because the symptoms were part of the healing process. So what happens here is people show up and whatever symptoms they've got going on, my job is to keep them safe as possible, and to coach them through the process so they don't quit. I mean, in the last month or 5.5 weeks, we've had, I think, 4 people say, I want to break my fast early. This is too difficult. And one of them did, and the other didn't. The others 3 didn't. They stayed and saw it through. And one of them is a young man who had fasted with me 40 days 9 years ago and had gone back to eating some cooked food over the last few years as a result of some of the influence out there that says this is just as good. And was shocked to find out how toxic his body was and how much mucus was pouring out of his system every day for 21 days. There was another young man who seriously considered, I think, because it was so challenging for him, he didn't get that close to quitting, but who has been suffering with a hiatal hernia for 3 years, where the stomach was pushing through the ring that separates the stomach from the esophagus, and constant belching, acid reflux, very uncomfortable situation. Medicine says we can operate, and there's a relatively small guarantee, there's no guarantee of success. And that's all there is to offer. That's all we can do. He contacted me and said, what do you think? I said, well, we want to understand that your body used to work properly. It can work properly. There's a reason that this happened. What we need to do, we don't have to know what the reason is. We just have to give the body the opportunity, the time, and the conditions it needs to be able to heal itself. And sure enough, he's now 7 or 8 days into a 12-day refeed before he leaves on Saturday after 6 weeks here. And he is, for the first time in 3 years, having no belching and no acid reflux and no pain and no discomfort. And he's a happy camper. There was another young man who had a serious back problem. They said he'd ruptured a couple of discs. This is a guy 22 years old and was always in pain constantly. And seriously, there was one of those dark nights of the soul about a week or 10 days ago where he said, this is too painful. I can't keep doing this. I need to break my fast. And, we had a talk. He kept going. Miraculously, 3 or 4 days later, he said, I am so glad I didn't stop fasting. Might have been a week, but he said, everything has shifted. I have no pain in my back for the first time. I can breathe freely. Everything feels good. I feel like a new person. Okay. So these are just some examples of what's happened in just the last month here. And there's many other people with their own stories, but I've seen this over and over, and these are miracles. Medicine says can't happen. You can't heal those ruptured discs like that. You can't heal hiatal hernia. You can't heal most of the things that we see healing. And the point is that the body heals itself. And I think I've completely lost the original thread while I got onto the subject. But, the body, when we give it this chance, this is what it's going to do. We don't need to worry about the symptoms because the symptoms, there it is, the symptoms were actually part of the healing process. So, we're most of the time, well, how can we make you more comfortable? Here's what I figured out maybe 10 years ago, Rainey. Every single time we treat a symptom, whether it's herbs or it's drugs or it's anything else, anything we're doing to treat a symptom, which usually means suppressing a symptom, what we're doing is we are developing chronic disease. This is how chronic disease develops. Because throughout our lives, our bodies are always attempting to cleanse and heal themselves. And the result of that are the symptoms that we experience. As long as we allow the body to manifest the symptoms and give it the chance to heal, there'll never be chronic disease, which is why I could sit here today at a few days short of 54 and tell you I haven't been sick a single day in 28 years. Not a cold or a headache or anything, okay? I see no reason for that to ever change as long as I continue to take care of myself. Because if I go to the city, I'll be in London, I'll be in a lot of big cities this summer. I'll be in Berlin and Frankfurt and Munich and London and Amsterdam and Copenhagen. And I'm going to take some toxic stuff, just from air pollution and who knows what else, right? Showering in a hotel where it's chlorinated water. What happens is my body is able to eliminate those toxins in real time, on an ongoing basis, because it is clean and functions well. Where the average body, every single day, every single week, month, and year, the body becomes more toxic and less able to deal with that toxic stuff coming in. And so this is why most of us, decline steadily from infancy till we get to about 77, where in the US, something like 75% of all healthcare dollars are spent in the last 2 years of the average person's life. Heroic measures to try to save somebody who is already mostly dead. They got not just one foot in the grave, they've got one leg, 1.5 legs, their whole torso, half their breastbone, and one arm in the grave. And they're trying to, reach out, but it's too late then, because treating symptoms has actually created these conditions. Okay? And this is the problem. And the interesting thing is that there are multiple studies. We were talking about the nutrients. There are multiple studies now that have shown, starting around 1985, I think, when they published the Finnish smokers study. Have you seen this research?
No.
They took a group of middle-aged Finnish men who all smoked cigarettes, and they divided them into two groups. They gave one group beta-carotene supplements, which they thought might have a protective effect on the lungs, and the other group didn't get them. And they tracked all these men until they died years later, and they autopsied them. And what they found were much higher rates of lung disease, lung cancer primarily, in the men who took beta-carotene supplements. Now, don't worry. Eating mangoes and papayas isn't going to cause lung cancer. But taking supplements does. Taking supplements, whether it's individual supplements or multivitamin supplements, creates a higher risk of disease, not a lower risk. And the reason why is simple. In the old studies, and I don't pay that much attention to the media anymore. I haven't read a newspaper in years, not consistently. I don't have television here, and I haven't watched television in nearly 20 years, not on a consistent basis. But in the old ads, studies, when they were looking at nutrients, they would almost always say, toward the end, the best way to get this nutrient is in whole foods. Well, guess what? It still is. And the reason why is simple. That mango or that papaya or that watermelon has a perfect blend of nutrients that work synchronistically to ensure that your body gets everything it needs. You need this thing to make this thing work and available to the body. We take supplements, even multivitamin supplements. These are things that are extracted from whole foods. They can't have everything. In fact, I'm going to make a suggestion here that's going to sound really silly and crazy to many people. And I'm probably going to get a lot more haters as a result. But I'll bet you eventually there'll be research that shows that those smoothies and juices do the same thing.
Really?
Now, I know people heal when they use them. But I think it's really, really important to understand why that happens. Did you ever see Super Size Me? Yeah. Morgan Spurlock's?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you remember, Spurlock spent 30 days, I think it was, consuming nothing but McDonald's. Right? 3 times a day, had to eat everything on the menu, had to get it supersized if they asked him to, etc. And if you remember, at the beginning, he went to a bunch of health professionals, including a doctor and a nutritionist, who all said, you'll be fine. Your cholesterol is going to go up a bit, your triglycerides will go up a little bit, but there's nothing to worry about. And 2 weeks later, when he was in for checkup with each of these professionals, each of them said, please stop doing this before you die, after 2 weeks. Okay? Now, what's my point? So his health degraded over the course of a month, unquestionably, significantly, in just 1 month. I mean, how much can it do in 1 month? It did what was possible. I'd be willing to say that it would be hard to do much worse than nothing but McDonald's. And that's the point I'm coming to, because if at the end of the month he had gone from nothing but McDonald's to McDonald's for breakfast and lunch, but a big green salad for dinner every night, his health likely would have gotten better. I think we can agree it's not because 2 McDonald's meals plus a green salad makes for a healthy diet, right? Not exactly the best diet in the world,
right.
But better what he was doing before. And that's the point. So people go from a conventional diet to a macrobiotic diet, which personally I would suggest is crap. Let's just piss off everyone today. Okay, macrobiotics, crap, right? Now, but people heal on it all the time. Yeah, they do, because they're not eating all the processed garbage they were eating before. They're still eating some animal products, but much less than they were eating before. That's what does it. They're taking in less toxic garbage than they used to. Okay? If you looked at I actually had one here. Let me see if I can find it for people who may not know what this is. No, I don't see. Give me 1 second. Here we go. I bought this just as a prop, so when I'm talking about this, I don't know if you can see this very well. That's a thimble. You know what a thimble is?
Yeah.
People who sew that use this to protect their fingers or the thumb, I'm not sure. The vitamins and minerals we need for a year fit into a thimble. Okay, now they're tiny little things, but there's a year's worth of nutrients in a thimble-sized cup. Okay, so what separates the very best diet from the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth best diet, which are all much better than most, isn't that it contains a lot more nutrients, because we're already getting way more nutrition than we need with most diets, with most better diets, right? Diets on the best, the high end of the spectrum, they're all going to give us all the nutrients we need. So why does a 100% fruit-based raw vegan diet, why is that so much better than a raw till 4 diet? And it's not even a little bit better. It's a whole world of difference. Why is that? It's not because the raw vegan diet contains a lot more nutrition. Both diets contain all the nutrition the body needs, plus plenty more. The problem with or anything that looks like that is that you're consuming things every single day that are toxic to the body. Because all cooked foods are toxic to the body. All cooked foods put the body into a crisis situation. They're stressing the body. And when we stress the body every single day by doing this, we're going to create a much lower level of vitality and a much higher level of toxicity, and that will eventually play a toll. Okay, it's going to have its impact.
Well said.
I'll breathe now. Let you jump in there.